Welcome back to Race Report, everyone. Today I want to discuss the driver situation going on at Mercedes right now and indeed in the future as well. I'd initially concepted this video to talk more about the Bottas situation and the incident with Russell at last week's Imola Grand Prix, but then I thought there's other situations going on. What with Hamilton's contract running out at the end of the season, he only took a 1-year deal after all, and potentially other drivers in the mix as well. So I figured I'd open it up to be more of a 2022 question of who would drive for the Mercedes team. So let's get stuck in. We'll start with the current drivers, of course. So currently we obviously have Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, going for 8 this season. He's on a 1-year deal, and it took a long time to get that contract signed. We don't really know why it took a long time. Obviously, Hamilton and Toto Wolff both said, we just need to sit down, we just need to hammer out the numbers, whatever, but it still took a long time. So it's interesting to see if he's still passionate to continue in the sport. It's very, very clear he is still the number one driver in the field based on performances this season, where his car arguably hasn't been the fastest. He's managed to make that work, and he is still leading the championship right now, despite fierce competition. So I'm sure if he said he wanted to continue, Mercedes would be happy to continue with him as well. I suppose the big if there is, does Hamilton want to stay? For the second seat, that's a bit more up in the air, isn't it? We've currently got Valtteri Bottas, who has been a solid stalwart in that second seat, doing a great job of, backing up Hamilton. But in recent times, that support has faded as other cars have got closer to the Mercedes. We saw last year, Verstappen was the second best driver, and it wasn't Bottas. And we've seen this season even worse. Bottas really is nowhere near the caliber of Red Bull, even McLaren right now, or his teammate. He's had a really bad year so far. And, it's not indicative of how the season's going to go. Obviously, we're only 2 races in. So there's a lot of room to improve, a lot of time to improve. But it does raise the question of if the seat has to be decided mid-season, which is a realistic possibility for Mercedes. Is Bottas going to be able to improve by then? For what it's worth, I think Bottas is a fast driver. I do not know if he is championship fast. You put him alongside Verstappen in the same car, you put him alongside Hamilton in the same car, you put him alongside, maybe even Norris at this point in the same car. I don't know if he's going to beat those guys, but I do think that he can achieve good results for the team, not great results for the team. So at that point, it becomes a strategy call, really. Do Mercedes think that Bottas is still going to get the points that they need to achieve a Constructors' Championship win? I mean, if it was Hamilton 1, Verstappen 2, Bottas 3, I'm sure Mercedes, while not super happy, they'd be okay with that because it still gets them the championship. But now we've seen Perez at Red Bull, and why he didn't have a good race last time out. There's the potential there for him to start making moves in that category. And McLaren are now pushing up towards that group as well as the Ferraris that are recovering. So it becomes a lot more complicated. And we also have external factors pushing on that seat as well. So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about the incident at Imola is because George Russell, it's widely considered that he would be the next Mercedes driver. I think we all know that he's managed by Mercedes. He's in that Williams seat because Mercedes want him there. And from his drive at Sakir last year, we all know that he is capable of driving a Mercedes to potentially a win. He probably would have won that race if it wasn't for all the problems he had. So that's another external factor being put on that seat there. And the reason why the crash at Imola affects things really is because that's Bottas and Russell coming together. And there's a few things that tie into why that's a bad thing, especially for Mercedes. Number one comes from Bottas himself. Why was he down in ninth? He started on the grid way down after a poor qualifying session. Okay, fair enough. Mercedes is quick enough, as we know in Hamilton's hands, to cut through the field and get back to the front. Why was he not able to achieve that? That's a big question mark from him. And I think we have seen like kind of tinges of that in the past seasons where if he gets too far back, he's unable to push forward in that car. That was one aspect. So he's down in ninth. What was he doing there? Why was he going so slow? And the second aspect was Russell. He went for a kind of dangerous move. And I'm kind of 50-50 on whether he should have done it or not, honestly. Wolf says, it's a Mercedes you're overtaking. You probably shouldn't do that. You should probably be a bit more careful. I don't know. Would you want that from one of your drivers, though? Like, me as a fan, I want to see the drivers going at it regardless of who's around. I'm like, think about if they didn't crash. And we're sat here now after George Russell in his Williams overtakes Valtteri Bottas in a Mercedes. That's a crazy story. That's an amazing story. I'm sure George Russell was thinking about that as he went for that move. And we would then all be going, well, get Bottas out of that seat right now. Put George Russell in there. But unfortunately, that's not the way it worked out. And, Bottas had a little wiggle to, defend the position. Whether he was right to do that or not, I'm not really going to debate. And George Russell, got spooked, touched the wet stuff and speared into the side of him. So, bad day all around. George also didn't handle it brilliantly in the moment. He did come out and later apologise, which is great. It's very big of him. But in the moment, he didn't particularly handle it well either, with very little grace or poise. And then, of course, all the chat from Toto Wolff started saying hey, jokingly saying, rather send him to the Renault Clio Cup rather than a Mercedes right now. It's all jokingly said, but I'm sure there was a conversation between those two that was like, hey, if you're in that situation again, try not to hit one of our cars, please. That's kind of like the main competition is George Russell right now. Or, whether it's that second seat, there have been rumours saying that Hamilton won't work with Russell and stuff like that, but I don't know if I fully believe them. I mean, Hamilton's got enough confidence in himself to know that whoever he goes up against, he could probably beat. If you sat George Russell in a Mercedes right now, I wouldn't expect him to beat Lewis Hamilton. I would expect Hamilton to beat him 9 times out of 10. So I don't think it's valid for Hamilton to really be running from that fight. But there are other drivers out there that we should consider. For instance, Max Verstappen has been long rumoured, and even Christian Horner's come out and said, hey, look, if we can't start winning races and getting close to that championship, Mercedes are probably going to poach him. So that's a very possible driver there for Mercedes. I don't think it's going to be for next year, though, looking how the Red Bull's shaping up. If Red Bull finally have a championship challenger, why would Verstappen leave to go to Mercedes, who are now the ones under pressure, right? I don't see that happening. I don't know really the reason why you'd do that. But maybe it's contract stuff, maybe it's money stuff, you never know why these things happen, really. But possibility. Maybe if Hamilton were to retire, that would be a more realistic option. They'd then go get Verstappen as a direct one-for-one replacement for Hamilton, for instance. Maybe it's more realistic there. Of course, there are other drivers in the field as well. So we know Esteban Ocon's had Mercedes representation with Wolff as well. Don't really see him fitting into the equation. I don't think he's been as impressive as people wanted him to be since coming back into the sport. Of course, Perez is probably going to be on a pretty short contract with Red Bull. Hulkenberg's still hanging around. I know there's lots of rumours about where he could slot back in if he does come into sport. But if you're looking for the future, and you're looking to partner somebody with potentially George Russell, or maybe, as a replacement for George Russell, if he's really gone off now. I don't think he has, but let's just hypothetically say that. Maybe Lando Norris. Maybe you go get him from McLaren, and he makes a Hamilton-esque jump from McLaren to Mercedes. Because he's quite clearly proven now that he is very capable of, probably winning a race if he was in the right machine. Like the Imola Grand Prix that we just had was so impressive for Norris. I was so happy to see that. So, and off the back of that, I fully believe that he can go on to win a race if he had the machine that was capable of doing that. So it's an interesting time at Mercedes. It really, really is. I don't think we've had this much instability in the team for a long, long, long time now. And they've never been challenged like they are. So, of course, these questions are going to come along. For me, I'd like to see Hamilton continue. I just want to keep him going until he can't go anymore. I think he's a pure icon for the sport. So keep him around. Hopefully he stays for another season. Who do you pair with him? Oh, that's a really good question. I think George Russell is far too good for a Williams. It's probably about time he was moved forward on the grid. And pairing him with Hamilton, man, that's just a lot of learning potential right there for a young Russell who could then go on to dominate himself. It'd be brilliant if that was the case. Where does that leave Bottas though? Maybe a midfield team like, the Alpines or the Aston Martins. One that's solidly midfield that could try and come forward. Whether it happens at the end of the season, I mean, it could happen mid-season at this rate. If Bottas does not improve, over the next couple of races, for instance, could we see a mid-season move where Mercedes just go, all right, we're not going to win the Constructors' Championship at this rate? Like, say, for instance, Perez improves, Bottas doesn't, and Red Bull are running away with it. Do they then make the decision, hey, look, we've got to, swap Bottas with Russell, try and get that championship back? Because obviously, they've won that thing as much as Hamilton's winning his titles. Mercedes are winning those constructors' titles too. They don't want to lose that title this season. Will they go for a mid-season move if things don't improve? That's another big question. I'm really looking forward to it. This is shaping up to be one hell of a season. Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you think Mercedes will switch up their partnership for next year? Do you like the pairing I've given them? Give me a shout in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.